So in question number 1, it is asking you basically to distribute. So we are distributing this 5 to both of the terms inside our parentheses. 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 6 is 30, and it'd be a positive 30, so you put your plus sign in between there. So everyone should have chosen D as their answer. All right, number 2. Select all expressions equivalent to 6y plus 12. So if you're looking at each one of these expressions, this first one, you could combine the like terms 6y and y, and that would give you 7y plus 12, which is not the same thing. So definitely not the first one. In the second choice, you would distribute the 6. So 6 times y would give you 6y, and 6 times 2 would give you 12. And that is a good one. So you want to choose the second one. In the third choice, you would combine the like terms of 6 and 12, and that would give you y plus 18, which is not the same thing. In the fourth one, you would distribute the 2. 2 times 3y is 6y, and 2 times 6 is 12, so that works. And in the last one, you would be distributing the 6. 6 times y is 6y, and 6 times 12 is 72, and that is wrong. So the two choices you should have made are the second one and the fourth one. Any questions on that? All right, looking at number 3, there were quite a few people that missed number 3, so make sure you're paying attention to it if you're one of those people. So in this original expression, I am going to circle my like terms that have a y, and I'm going to kind of underline my terms that are called constants that don't have a y. So if you are combining your terms with y, you have negative 25y and then plus 5y. Negative 25 plus 5 gives you negative 20. So that automatically eliminates A. Negative 25 plus 5 gives you negative 20. So then we combine our constants, 14 plus a negative 4, and that gives me a positive 10. So I look over here for a positive 10, and there it is right there. B has a negative 10, so we don't want that. C has that 18, which is wrong also. Remember, if you're not good with your integers, use your calculator, okay? Any further questions on that one? All right, question number 4. A student claims, I won't read it to you, you see it right there on your computer, and we see it up here. So we're finding the error. Now, there was not one correct way to say it, okay, one right way, but what did the student do? What property did the student do wrong? Let's be good. So the error distributing, you could have just said that. You didn't have to even give any more details. Some people wrote me almost a paragraph, and that was fine. I'd rather have more details than not enough, okay? But the main thing is that there was an error distributing. Don't just say he multiplied wrong. Technically, yeah, he did multiply wrong because he needed to do 2 times 4, which he did, and also 2 times 5x, and he didn't do that. So he didn't multiply right, but what that is called is distributing. So try to be more specific about what exactly it is, not just multiplying. A lot of people said he didn't do 2 times 5x, and that was okay. All right, but be more specific. Do not just say error distributing. So in number 5 is where we were actually fixing the error. Now, it did not say on your Chromebook on that question to show your work. Some people, it was really nice. I was like, ooh, they're going to be ready for iStep. They wrote step 1, step 2, step 3. That was nice. But you really didn't have to do that. Better write this correctly, I guess. You did not have to show the work on your computer. You could have just given your final answer on the computer. On your worksheet is where you should have shown that work. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 5x is 10x. What do we do at this point? You need to combine like terms. So your like terms are the ones that have an x. So that's going to give you 13x, and there's nothing to combine with this 8. So that is your final answer. This is the only thing that needed to be submitted onto your computer. Number 6. Most people did pretty well on number 6. You had to distribute first. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2 is 8. And all of that equals 24. What's my next step? Minus 8. So 4x equals 16. And then last step, dividing by 4, x equals 4. So looking over here, that is choice A. Any questions about number 6? All right, let's look at number 7. Quite a few people missed number 7, and I know it's because of that 2/3, isn't it? Yeah. So let's talk about what to do with that 2/3. First of all, let's go ahead and get rid of this minus 2 by adding it to both sides. So we get 2/3 x equals 6. For those of you that got it right, do you know what you did? Could you tell us what you did? Dawson. So since we want to get rid of multiplying by 2/3, we need to divide by 2/3. And when you divide by a fraction, you really multiply by the reciprocal. So that's exactly what Dawson was explaining, that he flipped 2/3 and made it 3/2. And that is what he multiplied each side of his equation by. And that's exactly right. The other option that you have is turning the fraction here into a decimal. Did anyone try doing that? Turn it into a decimal? It'd be a repeating decimal, wouldn't it? Now, it's not going to get you an exact answer, but since this is multiple choice, it'd at least get you close. So that might help you if you're completely stuck. But yes, to get rid of multiplying by a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. So that's going to leave us with x over here. And yes, Dawson said put it 6/1. So you're doing a fraction times a fraction. And that would give you 18/2. And 18/2 gives you 9. So your choice should be C, 9. Any questions about that one? I think most people did pretty well with number 8. There were a couple people that missed it. You're writing this equation. I'm not going to read out the scenario to you since you can read that yourself. But it rents the canoes for $3 plus $5.50 per hour. So make sure that 550 is along with that H, and all of that is going to equal 1950. Let me pause to answer the phone. Now, if I was going to write out the equation, this is how I would write it. Notice that it's not any of the options that are up here. So I started going back through looking for things that looked like mine. And I noticed that this one right here looked just like mine, except that the two sides were flip-flopped. But I paid attention to the fact that this 550 was next to my H. Whereas in this one right here, the 3 is next to the H. It's not $3 an hour. It's $3 regardless. And then $5.50 for each hour. Those other two, the only difference in the other two are the parentheses. What do the parentheses make you do? Why do you have to do the parentheses? Why do you have to have parentheses in that? Makes you do those first. We have to do 1950 minus 3 first. So you have to have those parentheses there. You can't do that second one, because if you did the second one, you'd have to do 3 divided by 550. We don't want to do 3 divided by 550. Okay? So if we were going to solve this, we'd subtract $3 from 1950 and then divide that answer by 550. So it'd be the first one and the last one. Questions on it? All right, moving on to number 9. First of all, let me say this. If it gives you a variable, and I wrote this on your papers, if it gives you the variable, you have to use that variable. And this problem gives you G. So whether you like the letter G or not, that's what we're all using. So please make sure whatever variable they give you is the one that you use. So it's going to be $2.50 per game. So $2.50 times however many games she's playing, plus $2 for her bowling shoes. All of this is going to equal $12. Some people wrote an inequality. Does it say write an inequality? No, it says write an equation. That means you have to have an equal sign. Some people didn't have an equal sign. Other ways that some people wrote this, some people wrote 12 minus $2 in parentheses, you have to add those, divided by 250 equals G. That would be fine also. Any questions about 9? Then number 10 is where you actually solve it. So if you do the $12 minus the $2 for her shoes, you end up with $10 left. And then the $10 left divided by the price for each game, which is $2.50, gives you how many games? 4 games. Some people wrote G equals 4. That's right. Some people just wrote 4. That's right. Some people wrote 4 games. That's right. I accepted all of those answers. And we're starting with inequalities on number 11. What do I do in number 11 first? Minus 30. $23 minus 30. Again, if you're not good with integers, use your calculator. -7. Now, what is our second step? Times by -3. Now, because we're multiplying by a negative, what happens? You switch the inequality sign. It makes that alligator angry when you multiply or divide by a negative. So it's going to give you A is greater than, negative times negative would give you a positive 21. So looking over here, A is greater than 21 is C. Some people forgot to switch their inequality symbol around. Number 12. First step, number 12. Minus 2. That gives you 7A is less than 21. Then divide by 7. You're dividing by a positive. Your alligator, your inequality sign stays like it is. You're dividing by a positive. So that gives you A is less than 3, which is choice A. I think most people got that one right. And then number 13. Quite a few people missed number 13. First of all, you have to solve the inequality. You cannot just look at the inequality and go ahead and figure out if it's open or closed and which way it's pointing. We have to solve it first. So plus 9 is negative 4A is greater than or equal to 12. And now I'm going to divide by -4. Here I am dividing by a negative, which makes my inequality sign reverse. Now in every single one of these number lines, it's at -3. So that's not the important part here. The important part is that inequality sign, which is now less than or equal to. So we're looking for closed only. A is open and C is open. So that narrows it down to B or D. And that inequality sign is less than. So less than would be B. Any questions on that one? Okay. 14. Write an inequality. Some of you wrote equations. Write an inequality. If you write an equation, it's automatically wrong. Some of you wrote correct parts. It would have been right if it was an equation, but because you wrote it as an equation, that made it wrong. So it's $4 per bracelet. Again, even if you don't like using the letter B, we have to use it in this one. So $4 for each bracelet, plus the $16 she spent on earrings. All of this together needs to either be equal to or less than the amount of money she has, which is $48. So make sure, I'm going to call it an alligator, make sure your alligator is eating that 48. Whether you had the 48 on the left side or on the right side. The alligator should be eating your 48. B should be not by the 48. Some people had it written like this. That's fine also. But again, the alligator is going that way. It's not eating the B. The bracelets seem to be the least amount of things. So solving this, 48 minus 16 gives you 32. And 32 divided by 4 gives you 8. Now, what is the maximum number of bracelets? 8. I accepted. It really should be B is less than or equal to 8. That really is the best answer. You should really write your answer. Since it's an inequality, ask an inequality. But since it wasn't that specific in part B, 8 I think might be okay in this one. But don't get in the habit of doing that. Okay, so that's the end of those questions. But I wanted to go over a couple other questions that weren't on there, but that will be on that test tomorrow. If you recall, we went over these 4 properties. And if I gave you what's written down here in my own handwriting, what property is shown in this example here, Skylar? The commutative property. How did you know that, Skylar? I agree. So commutative starts with that CO. Change order starts with a CO. And that's exactly what happened down here. We moved this 3x over here next to the 5x. So what they did was group those like terms by each other. So the x's were by each other and the constants were by each other. So that was changing the order. What about this one here? What is this an example of? Emma? That's going to get confused with the other one. Good. So distributive. So a lot of people get associative and distributive confused only because they know that associative and distributive both have to do with parentheses. So just because you see parentheses doesn't mean it's associative. This shows that you're doing 3 times 2x and that you're doing 3 times 4. It's not actually working it out for you, but it's distributing that 3. What about this one here? Identity. Whenever you multiply by 1, you get the answer itself. What can you add and it's the same? 0. What about this one? This one is the associative. So notice that I'm not distributing anything in this. The only thing that was different is where those parentheses are. Over here, 7 and 4 are boyfriend and girlfriend, and over there, 4 and 6 are boyfriend and girlfriend. I know, right? 7 is out. What about this one? Commutative. Back to changing that order so it groups your like terms together. All right, and then we had some of those. Do you feel okay with these now? All right, let's talk about how to do this. What would I do first? Add 4. Yes, that's how you solve that's how you do an equation, right? Get rid of your multiplying and dividing, get rid of your adding and subtracting first. Adding 4. All right, so that's going to give you 1/2 n equals, let's just write it as 4 1/4. Let's not overthink this right now. Dawson told us how to get rid of this 1/2, and that was multiplying by the reciprocal. We'll worry about this in a second. Don't worry. I know we have to do it. So these cancel out. You're left with n. Let's talk about how you do this. Who knows how to do a mixed number times a fraction? Emma. So we have to write our mixed number as an improper fraction. And as a review on how to do that, denominator times your whole number plus your numerator. So that's going to give you 17 over 4 times 2 over 1. So that's going to give you 34 over 4, which would give you 8 2/4, which is 8 1/2. Yes? So it's the same steps that you know. Think about what you would do in this one. Add your 2. Okay. Tinley? Could you do it? Two and 3/4 is what as an improper? Four times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. You can cross reduce if you want to, but I'm not going to because I don't want to confuse anyone. If all else fails tomorrow and you're like, oh no, what do I do? Turn them into decimals. You have that option, right? This would be 0.5 n minus 2 equals 0.75. You can do that. That'd give you 2.75 over there divided by 0.5. You have a calculator. So worst case scenario, turn them into decimals, especially when it's multiple choice.